Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the VPL. My name is Munchables and I'm joined as always by Tasty Bacon. Now, unfortunately, we have to start this afternoon on a solemn note. In Jacksonville, Florida, there has been a shooting at a Madden tournament. Now, according to WJXT, a news outlet in Jacksonville, Florida, there have been at least 4 fatalities and many more wounded.
Our thoughts and prayers go out to all of those involved in the tournament and in the Jacksonville area, and we please urge anyone in the area to stay safe.
Absolutely. Now, this is the first time this has really happened in esports, and they were streaming live on Twitch just like we are now. In times like this, we have to stay tight-knit as a community and be there for each other. With that said, the VPL must go on, so we will continue with our games today and take a look at what's going to be coming up. We obviously had our European games earlier on. We had 2 2-0s in Europe. Sly and Queso managing to qualify for the semi-finals. Now we're going to be jumping into our North American games, starting off with Hammers Esports against Team Ferox, and then later on we'll jump into Tribe Gaming against Rampage Gods.
Yeah, these games should be very thrilling and fun to watch. I mean, you look at Hammers versus Ferox. On paper, the rosters look very evenly matched. Both teams have some momentum behind them now coming into this as they both look to qualify for the semifinals.
Absolutely. You can see Nova and Vision already qualified for their semi-final, and we're going to have Hammers or Ferox winning today, and then Rampage Gods or Tribe moving up as their opponent. But speaking of Tribe, they have a new member on the roster. We need to take a moment to talk about Chuck, because this guy, longtime TSM player, took a bit of a hiatus at the start of the VPL. He played in preseason, and as you can see on the stats we've gathered, played excellently during preseason. Had a bit of a hiatus at the start of this Summer Open. Now he's joined Tribe.
Yeah, he's going to be looking to fill in the shoes of Dienzio. And, you know, a lot of people, you look at this, you see Chuck on Tribe, and you wonder, is this a joke? Is this a prank? Because TSM and Tribe, they were bitter rivals in the preseason, and now Chuck is going to be joining Tribe in the mid lane and looking to carry over those stats now into the Summer Open.
Absolutely. When we have a big roster change like this, usually I would talk about, you know, potential coordination issues, things like that. But this kind of roster change is like subbing out LeBron James for Michael Jordan. You've still got an absolute all-star player on your roster. He knows how to play at a top level. He knows how to coordinate with the team. And I know for a fact, Tribe have been practicing hard with Chuck in the roster.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And not only that, but he's going to be bringing the mindset and the knowledge from TSM, from this team that dominated in the preseason, and that play style now to this already stellar Tribe lineup. This is going to be looking like a very scary team.
It certainly is. Now, this will be our second series of the day, so make sure you stay tuned. But our first series of the day is going to be Team Hammers going up against Ferox, presented, of course, by Playvig. Now, to start off this matchup, I was talking this week to Ferox, specifically Lost Boy Top, the leader of the team, to find out how they're feeling moving into the week in our Razor phone-in.
Yo guys, Lost Boy Top here. So I'm sure you guys have heard that we've won NACL recently. They were intense matches and we've managed to finish off pretty strong. I'm pretty confident with my team for VPL. We've been constantly practicing and we've made it this far. So keep an eye out for us. Give us your energy, cheer for us. Guys, thanks for all the support. Team Ferox, your boy is out.
Now is obviously Lost Boy Toff there. He is going to be kind of leading this squad. And in case any of you guys missed it during the week, this squad actually defeated Nova 3-0 in the NACL. You know, this is a pretty experienced roster. We've got players from the preseason as well. This is a roster that, honestly, they've been kind of flying under the radar, but need to be talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned the NACL victory over Nova. There was some extenuating circumstances there, but that was for game 1. They still managed to win out the series 3-0 without dropping a game. So they're going to have that bit of momentum behind them coming into their matchup today. And you know, you said the preseason experience from Pico and Papa John. You have Lost Boy Toff, who has plenty of live stage experience as well as other top level experiences as well. So he's going to be, like I said, kind of the leader, the veteran experience behind Lost Boy Toff, but these new up-and-coming players as well looking to make a name for themselves.
It's a serious opportunity for them. Honestly, right now, this feels like the most dangerous team in North America because at least with the top teams, you know what to expect. With Ferox, they got a default win last week. We haven't really seen them in the VPL. We saw them at NACL, and they surprised everyone. So the performance level is way above what was seeded for, what was expected for this team way at the start of the VPL. So definitely, Ferox, they have nothing to lose right now. They have all the momentum behind them. They're the lowest seed coming into this. The Hammers, they're going to have their work cut out. That is for sure. Now, Hammers coming on in, they've lost Tsunami, so that's going to be a difficult change for them. They are going to be having a roster swap coming on in there, but they're definitely still feeling confident in the matchup.
Yeah, and absolutely, they should. They are still kind of the favorites coming into this. Again, there's a little bit of up in the air with this matchup. They're not a heavy favorite, but they are seeding-wise the favorite. They have won in the VPL because they actually had their games to play, but they are still again going to be. They're in this restructuring phase still. They thought they had their lineup set.
Yes.
Now they have to make another change coming in late. How is that going to affect their roster and their cohesion coming into this important matchup?
That's going to be a question. They're definitely still a very strong roster. Let's take a look at their opponents, though. First, Team Ferox stepping onto the rise. We can have a glance over the roster here. Pico, Moji, Rock Bomber, Papa John, and obviously Lost Boy Toff, kind of the leader of the squad. These guys, an incredibly consistent, hopefully very consistent. So far, it's been an all-star roster. We'll see if they can continue that trend right now. But their opponents are going to be Hammers. And we spoke to Level from Hammers this week, leading into his games to see how confident he was with the new roster in our Razor phone.
What's up, everybody? My name is Level, and I am the top laner for Hammers Esports. This week in VPL, we're going to be going up against Team Ferox. They're a solid up-and-coming team with plenty of recognizable names who have been putting a lot of work into the game. Overall, we're feeling pretty confident with this patch, and we're definitely excited to play against them. We've come a long way from going 0-7 in the preseason, so be on the lookout because we're definitely trying to pull this one out and move on to next week. Thank you guys all for your support, and I hope you enjoy the matches.
You can see there the Hammers roster. Level going to be filling in for Tsunami, Mixi, Ali Peterson, Archaic, and it will also be, Tsunami is listed on there, but he will not be playing. Illest likely to be the substitute or the
Blue Stacks as well.
Starter coming in for the side of the Hammers as they look to take down Ferox. And we talking about this matchup, the early game I think is going to be incredibly important because that was one of the weaknesses that Ferox did have in their series against Novas. Their early game didn't look that strong, but they were able to turn things around late game due to some of their picks. And one of those picks that was crucial for them was the Kensei. Kensei gets banned by just about every team except Nova. So will they be able to adapt to that, knowing that they likely are not going to have that Kensei available? Can they shore up their early game? Because if you fall too far behind without a late game monster like a Kensei in your squad, it can be very difficult to get back into the game.
I think the Scarf was a huge highlight for them as well in that series, kind of those Dragon Breaths in the team fights. But I mean, you're absolutely right in saying that the team fights were what Ferox really shone at. And when it comes to individual lanes, when it comes to early game skirmishes where maybe you don't have your whole team, maybe that's an opportunity for Hammers. Because bear in mind, the Hammers roster is still completely stacked. Like, you've got players, old school players like Mixi in there, who was really impressive when we saw Hammers earlier on in the tournament. Like, I expect to see Hammers trying to abuse that early game, trying to force situations where you have smaller skirmishes instead of these whole team fights. So Ferox can't use that strength.
Yeah, absolutely. And get that, maybe look to pick a Grumpjaw early on, pick up a Tony, things that have been shown to have those strong early game pick potential opportunities. Get heroes that have the high movement speed that can rotate between the lanes very quickly and look for those odd man fights.
Yeah, absolutely. Try and catch your opponent off guard. We'll see if that's going to be the case. And honestly, in North America so far, we've seen much slower games than anyway. Like, generally, historically, it was EU that was slow and NA that was very quick. In the VPL so far, we've seen very slow, calculated games in North America, generally speaking, whereas in EU, we've seen much more aggressive stuff. We'll see what the case is going to be here in this matchup. We'll have to see where they do choose to go with this one, because obviously there are many routes that you can take, and game one of the series, I think, is going to spell a lot out about how these two rosters are going to be interacting over the series.
Yeah, it definitely is an interesting opportunity now to see, again, where the bans are going to come through and how the teams are going to adapt to these changes. Because like we saw, or I mentioned earlier in the NACL, Kensei got through all 3 games and were given to Ferox. And that was one of the key components for them. I want to see, can they adapt to the differing drafts? Will these teams change their draft strategy after game 1 is finished and we know who came out on top, what picks were strong there? That's always one of the things I'm most intrigued by when we have these matchups of teams that are looking to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, so we had Tony and Churnwalker banned away by Ferox. So interesting bans does leave things like the Anchor and the Reza open. Fortress, very solid first pick. It's one of the first picks that we were seeing a lot at the start of the tournament. It's been less common in more recent games, but still, I think just a very solid pickup. Just great captain. You can play him as a jungler either. Just very versatile, very high utility.
Anka right off the bat by the side of Ferox, so looking for that early aggression. And if they match it with a Grumpjaw, I think that's a perfect pairing to go for and just start rotating around the map early on. This is showing to me that Ferox is going to try and play early and play to those strengths that they have set up in the early game.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what they're going to be able to do with this one. Lance going to be a second pickup as well. We've been talking about how Lance can be a very strong top laner, but you can play it as that captain as well. You can play as jungler if you really want. Quite a versatile pick right now, just the amount of utility that he does offer as a pickup. Lorelei going to be locked in as well for the likes of Hammers, so they've kind of got sort of captain roles fulfilled. You could maybe go for another captain later down the draft. You could go with something like an Arden as well, just to sort of round things out, but we'll see where they choose to go.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an intriguing set of circumstances coming through. You see with the Lance already there, again, you mentioned the fact that you can set up some team fights. You can have really strong engages with the Lance, which is something that a lot of teams have actually struggled with a bit. A lot of the teams that we see, falling in the VPL event, teams that don't have that hard engage. They don't have the ability to get into a team fight without losing most of their health in the process. So something like the Lance can really help with that. Samuel, of course, has just been such a dominant pick in this VPL, so prevalent in the fact that he has that sustain, the long range, and the Oblivion that can put members to sleep.
We've had some incredible Oblivions across the course of the tournament. Such a game-changing ability. We'll see how Chamu's going to be able to use that across the course of the game. They've got 2 CP carries locked in. I'd expect Ferox just to finish off with a weapon power carry of their own. Gwen will be the lock-in here for Hammers. We have seen some incredible performances on Gwen recently. PvP Warrior on Vision especially is like the highlight in my mind of Gwen play.
Yeah, Hundor made a case for that as well earlier today. Gwen definitely is becoming one of the most prevalent and most dominant of these bottom laner weapon power carries. Catherine is going to round out the composition. Catherine's one of these picks that we see every so often. It really seems to be like some teams just really love this Catherine pick, other teams don't care for it at all. Obviously, Hammer is going to try and take this the stuns to try and maybe interrupt things from like the Arden. If you can interrupt the Anka when she jumps in, stun her, all of a sudden she's very, very vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a Rona as the final pickup here for Team Ferox. That'll likely be going into that 1v2 lane. I actually personally love Rona. I think Rona's a fantastic pick. I don't think that she deserves to be as low priority as she currently is, so I'm curious to see how well Ferox are going to be able to use that Rona.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. We have seen Rona, like, I think once in VPL thus far. Didn't have the greatest of showings, but it is still a pick that I think there is potential for it in the right situation, especially, again, with a Lance. Like, there's so many heroes that just pair really well with Lance. Yeah. Like, Rona, especially, if you start that ultimate with everyone getting stunned up by a Githian wall, you just do so much damage.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, Rona as a pick, I think you can take over a game if you can play it well, and I'm expecting Ferox to play well. Let me just remind you guys, this is to fight for their spot in the top 4 right now. This is the flagship match for today. Hammers up against Team Ferox. I think it's about time that we jump on into this one though. Hammers against Ferox. They're fighting for top 4. They're fighting for their right to stay in for that prize pool. We'll see who's going to be able to take this one. So I'm going to pass it over to our casters. It's going to be Flash X. It's actually going to be Tasty Bacon.
Game number 1, Hammer Esports against Team Ferox. This is perhaps going to be one of the closest matchups we have had thus far. Both these teams very, very evenly matched. A lot of players with a lot of different experience. Pico getting one of his signature heroes on this Anka, surely going to be one of the huge difference makers here in game number 1. My name is FlashX. Humanist not going to be joining me for this one. That's all right. We can hold the fort down by ourselves. A little bit of early game jungle trading as Papa John and Mosg invade into Hammers. Topside jungle, Hammers going into Team Ferox's bottom side jungle. Some Crystal Treants being secured. Definitely a little bit of back and forth action. Mixie securing that Crystal Treant for himself. We gotta take a look at these compositions. I think that these are two very, very even compositions. We have some very interesting things on both sides of the coin. Ferox opting to pick up the Rona. Definitely not a carry that we have seen very much so far here in the VPL. Will be very interesting to see how it plays out. I don't like it personally. I think that Fortress and his Mortal Wounds is going to be very, very effective at shutting it down. On top of that level, we saw his pre-game interview feeling very confident on that Catherine. Those stuns are going to be extremely hard for Rona to deal with. In classic North American fashion, things starting off a little bit slowly. Both these teams securing their jungles. Not too much over aggression, a little bit of invades, a lot of vision spread all across the map by both teams. I think Hammers certainly getting the upper hand. We do have Illest stepping into the roster for Hammers, taking Junami out of the picture.
And don't worry, Flash, you are not actually alone. I've been waiting for you to take a breath so I can come in with the dynamic duo back together again. Obviously, you said Ferox, a strong composition, but that Rona is definitely going to be kind of a catalyst for this one. If the Rona can succeed, I think they're going to have a lot of success on this one, but it's all about setting up this Anka. Here comes our first fight of the game, though, as it is going to be everyone kind of posturing up for this Crystal Treant. Not really willing to hard commit. The Drifting Dark's going to get a lot of damage down, but all of it's getting eaten by the Treant. There's an Impale going in. Githyan Wall's not going to land any stuns. The Crystal Treant does go over to the Rona, but now they have to escape. They go 1 for 1 thus far. Anka the first casualty, but Catherine falls as well. Mosg and Rock Bomb are low. Shamu also going to get dropped very low. He's going to be the next target and will fall. So when all is said and done, it's going to be a 2 for 1 in favor of the side of Hammers.
Tasty! Hello, old friend. Thank you for bailing me out of this. Hammers, one bit more Mosg gonna be able to escape right there. I hope you're doing well. I was very much mentally prepared to talk the entire game without breathing.
I was actually here the whole time. I was literally waiting for you to take a breath just so I could get a word in, but you were on fire, man. So great job holding down the fort for those first 4 minutes or so. But yeah, this is, again, Hammers with that small advantage. They did lose out on the Treant, but they end up getting themselves back into a favorable position.
Yeah, Hammers definitely the stronger showing here in the early game. Gwen picking up another kill onto Anka in that bottom lane. I don't know, have we talked about Hammers preseason and how much of an improvement they have made since then? Because I think they struggled.
Something has been mentioned once or twice.
Once or twice. Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that that point was clear. Hammers struggled in preseason. They're looking much better in the quarterfinals, certainly looking to advance to the semifinals right here. Doing a great job pressuring all the map. Illust and Archaic getting engaged upon in the bot lane.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be Gwen getting that turret, but Fortress does go down. Illust, meanwhile, though, turning the damage right back onto Pico, as Gwen has been looking so strong over the last few weeks, Flash.
Yeah, Illust has certainly stepped up his game quite a bit, subbing into that starting bot lane position, looking very good. We see some major item power spikes coming in. That first turret, I don't know that we've seen a tier 1 turret fall so quickly in any of the games today, but that's going to be super important. Mixie already has his Aftershock online on that Maline. That's going to enable him to just hugely, hugely exacerbate the burst damage coming out of his combos. That's going to be something that Team Ferox has to be very careful of.
Yeah, absolutely. You see Pico in a bit of trouble again. This can be Archaic chasing him down through the jungle, but getting that first turret early is so important because it frees up Illis to be able to rotate around with the team up in the top lane. Meanwhile, though, that is going to be the duo of the Rona able to find a kill alongside her teammate, and now they can look to try and push in their top turret to even up this turret game as Ghostwing spawns. Be interesting to see if either of these teams make a move. It looks like Hammers really want to get this early Ghostwing online.
That's great objective control by Hammers. Unfortunately, they're going to be losing 2 turrets very quickly here in the top lane. Ferox, unfortunately, they are going to lose out the Ghostwing, but taking down those 2 turrets opens up the map so much for them if they capitalize on that, if they group together, if they take a lot of these team fights and have a numbers advantage. That could pay dividends as this game progresses. We are very even in gold at Team Ferox with the slight lead, I think, primarily coming off the back of all those turrets. Mixie and Ali Peterson taking a little bit of damage in the mid lane. Careful.
Yeah, definitely got to make sure you don't get caught out by the Lance Impales. So much damage can potentially follow up if you get stuck in the middle of the lane like that. So and it's something that they're going to have to be very much aware of as this game goes on, especially because, Joe and I were talking about it on the desk. Team Ferox, one of their biggest strengths is their full-on late-game team fighting. We are seeing a few more tier 3 items starting to get picked up. The Aftershock for Archaic on this Fortress is going to be huge. That's going to be a nice fight over this Crystal Strand. Pico going in deep, a very aggressive, manages to get out, at least for now. The ultimate doing a lot of damage. Ali Peterson keeping the team full health, keeping the fight moving, as it's going to be Hammers chasing on down. They're looking for kills. They're going to find a couple, but it's still Anka and the Fortress that fall. Now the rest of the kills start to drop. Rona and Catherine going down, and this is going to be once again Hammers coming out on top as Gwen finds another kill. And this Gwen, you have to be careful that this doesn't get away from you, with Gwen starting to find more and more kills.
Coming out on top indeed. Hammers looking really good in that team fight. The attack of the pack dropped by Archaic at the start of that completely negated all of the splash damage that Moshi on that Samuel was able to put out. That's going to be very, very important to make sure they are fighting around that ability, taking engagements when it's up. He's already got a lot of cooldown in his kit, Archaic. He's got the Aftershock. That's really going to help make sure those wolves are coming up just a little bit faster. Hammers narrowing the goal lead. It is dead even at these points. Both of these teams making sure that they are grouped together when these team fights do break out. Rock Bomber needs to find a block on this Rona in order to make sure that his red mist is not being shut down.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the other things I wanted to kind of talk about here is the amount of mobility on the side of Hammers when they go in for those engagements. You mentioned the attack of the pack, obviously going to be really helpful for going into a fight, but you have Archaic able to provide additional movement speed to the entire team. Is actually Moshi taking a bit of damage here in the mid lane, and it's going to be Anka actually finding Illis down in the bottom. He's going to pay for it, but getting that shutdown can be huge for the side of Ferox. But you've got Gwen with her skedaddle, you have Merciless Pursuit from Catherine, you have then the pools getting put down by Lorelei. There's so much mobility for this team when team fights start to break down and you start to get kited away or you dove onto, you can maneuver so well. And we might be about to see a little bit of that, as this is going to be once again this Crystal Treant, which has been so hotly contested. The first kill onto the Rona. That's going to be Arden's Gauntlet getting used, but not really too much effect as he has to leave the Gauntlet shortly after. Nice Impale is going to lock him up, but that's going to be Samuel actually falling as well. So again, Hammers coming out on top in these early trades.
They've got to be feeling good. They're coming out on top, but they're still a little bit down in gold. Ghostwing back online now. I would love to see Hammers finish off this mid lane turret, then promptly go down, secure that Ghostwing. Pico, though, looking to engage.
Yeah, Pico's trying to get this kill onto Illis once more. A lot of shielding thanks to the water wall, and they're not going to be able to find the kill. They do save that mid turret, but they lose their top turret in the process. So Hammers splitting up the team, saying, you know what, we're going to guarantee ourselves at least one of these objectives, and getting that top turret has really evened up this gold once again. You see it's about a 400-500 gold lead or so, which really doesn't amount to much at all in the grand scheme of things.
No, it's still very much anyone's game at this point. Pico, such good mechanics on this Anka. That's hands down one of his signature heroes. It is very, very annoying to play against. I've had the misfortune of doing so, but Moshi being caught out of position.
Yeah, Moshi is just going to get absolutely annihilated there. 3-on-1, not too much you're going to be able to do in that situation. But now Ferox, they have to make sure that they don't lose too much off of this. They are going to lose out on their weapon treant. That gets stolen away. And now Hammers, do they look to rotate towards the Ghost Wing? I think that would be a smart call from them, knowing that you have the man advantage for at least a few more seconds. Go ahead, take advantage of that. Force Ferox to have to try and come to you if they want to defend against this.
Ferox knows what's happening. Pico on this Anka can do an absurd amount of burst damage. He's just going to let it go, though, as Ferox starts to pressure this mid lane turret. They're not going to be able to get it. Instead, they are going to steal away that Crystal Power Treant. They need to group together, though, if they want to find a good engagement on the side of Hammers. But Anka still hanging out in the bot lane.
Archaic was pretty far forward on his own, but the rest of the team was there to follow up. Meanwhile, Ferox just backing away, letting Pico do his thing down in the bottom lane. Keep in mind, in the preseason, it was Pico that made the highlight reel for going and making a solo backdoor into an enemy base, then teleport bootsing out to rejoin his team for a fight. So he is no stranger to going off on these solo missions, looking to take down objectives, but it may just be a little bit too early for that. Obviously, again, you need to stick together with your team, like you were saying, so that you can prevent these clean objectives takes that Hammers have been looking for. They've gotten themselves 2 Ghost Wings. They're looking for Black Claw now. It's getting pretty low, but here is Ferox to defend. A Gauntlet's going to go down. That's going to be a huge Githian wall stun into the Gauntlet walls. And now the fight has broken it down, and Rona is just going to drop nothing to help keep this Rona alive in the middle of the fights, and Hammers are turning this one right back onto Ferox. They're chasing down 2-3 kills, looking for Pico now. He's going to get to the safety of his turret, but that was a 3-0 in favor of Hammers, and now they just turn their attention right back to the Black Claw.
The Ghost Wing barrier buff, so critical for Hammers to get the upper hand in that team fight. They use it to their advantage. They quickly turned on a Ferox. Pico might be looking for a steal.
He could, but he's not gonna find it. Instead, it will be his life that is stolen away. Papa John goes down shortly after, and now with Black Claw pushing it down the mid lane, this is Ferox on the back foot as Hammers, they're gonna send most of their team actually up top and say, you know what, Black Claw can push mid, we're gonna shove top, try and maximize as much as we can on this. Because they got 2 kills, they are able to make this split push work very effectively.
I think that that's a great call coming out of Hammers, definitely maximizing their opportunity right here. They understand that all of Ferox is in that mid lane. They're just going to continue pressuring Pico, trying to do what he can to poke. I don't know if it's going to be enough.
Oh, big damage actually coming out from Papa John there, but Archaic is the target that gets low. That's not really the target that's going to be helping you win the fight to take him down. They do get that kill, but immediately Hammers are able to turn it back around. Rona finally getting some good damage in with the red mist, and all of a sudden Ferox has just cleaned out a stun onto the Catherine, and that will be an ace for Team Ferox. Where did this come from?
It's not just an ace, it is a massive gold swing back into their favor. 2K after being down. They have got to feel super good about that one. We gotta talk about Papa John's build, though. He has a Spellfire and Aftershock. Certainly not a build that you see every day on Arden. Tasty, you're the Arden expert. What do you make of this?
I mean, I love the weapon power. The Spell Sword is an item that is still kind of up in the air on. I'm still undecided because you don't get all of the benefits from it, but having that Aftershock for that burst, you saw how much damage he was able to do when he jumped in with that blood for blood. The Crystal Power Arden, full Crystal, I don't really like. The Weapon Power Arden, I obviously love, but mixing the two is creating a really unique situation for Papa John to be able to provide a lot of damage, but he also has that Crucible to still provide the utility and the Vanguard for his team. That's going to be so important because you saw Rock Bomber, when he is able to stay healthy in a fight, he just starts melting through opponents, and that's going to be important. Having that Crucible to give him a little bit of extra durability. 2 Crucibles, in fact, Papa John and Shamu both wielding one at the moment. As now we're looking for another fight, it's going to be Pico getting some good damage down beforehand. The ultimate obviously going to be on cooldown now for about 40 seconds, but Ferox, all of a sudden, they're the ones starting to position aggressively, feeling a bit confident after that last fight.
Going straight into this turret, Nate taking it very, very low. Ferox definitely the ones controlling the tempo at this point. We also got to talk about the fact that Papa John opted to max both his Vanguard and Blood for Blood first, and he only has 1 point in Gauntlet, so they are not even relying or playing around this Gauntlet whatsoever. He wants to be able to do damage. He wants to go in, find some of these squishier backline carries like Illust on this Gwen or Mixi on this Maline, and try and blow them up. But if Lorelei is able to find a great water wall, all that damage can be completely negated, and is definitely a very risky play.
Yeah, well, that's also one of the things that Ferox has to think about is that water wall. It's going to be used to save a carry, so maybe you choose one, start to get the damage out, wait for the water wall, and then immediately switch targets. It can be very difficult to have that level of target selection in the midst of a fight, but if you can, they can maybe take advantage of that cooldown. A nice Githian wall is going to stop Hammers in the track, but Pico is not involved yet. He's going to come in late, and that could be massive for them because he's untouched, just cleaning house on the back lines, and Ferox are finding the fights. They are turning this game on its head, Flash, as they find 4 more kills. Level, the lone member to escape this fight. Rock Bomber is looking for him, but he's not going to find him, but it's a 4-0 in favor of Ferox.
That is a huge exchange. Right before that fight broke out, Pico was heading for that bottom lane. There's obviously a huge wave there. Thank God he turned around and went back to his team. He is so well known for his split pushing ability, but boy did his team need him in that team fight. The burst damage and the mobility of Anka is so hard to deal with. Level on this Catherine really needs to be saving the Merciless Pursuit to make sure that Pico on this Anka is the one that he is shutting down, because that damage is so hard for Hammers to deal with, and right now they just don't have an answer for it.
And like I said, the allure of that farm in the bottom lane almost helped Pico in that situation because he joined in late. All the abilities were already used. This time he gets blown up right off the bat, and he is the first to fall. That is not the way Ferox wants a team fight to start. See, Slumbering Husk popped onto the Rona, but they're chasing down Moshi. Not going to be able to find the kill, though, as it's actually going to be Rock Bomber taking down the Maline, and now they're going to be looking to continue this hunt into the midst of the team. Rona is just holding on so well now that it's gotten later in the game. A great Githian wall is going to find a stun. They're trying to take down Level or Ali Peterson. They don't really care which one they get. They're just going to take them both. And Blackclaw is still pushing Team Ferox 19-18 now on the kills. They've gotten the kill lead. They're on to the armory. How far are they going to look to push this? Looks like they want to take this top lane as well and just break this base wide open.
I think that that's a great decision. Very calculated, not overstepping. They understand these death timers. Mixi on the Maline coming back online. Gwen very shortly behind them. They have an armory. They have breached the base. There's only 1 turret left standing for the side of Hammers. Ferox in complete control. You thought at the start of that fight with Pico going down so quickly that it was going to be all over for Ferox, but Ferox, they turned it around. The Arden combo with Rona, so much barrier, so much fortified health. With that Serpent's Mask, she healed, she sustained, she built up those breaking point stacks, and as soon as she had 25 stacks, it was all over for Hammers, and Ferox putting their first armory on the board.
And this is such a tough decision for Hammers, because who do you focus in a fight? You obviously want to take down Pico early, but if you don't take out Rock Bomber early as well, like you mentioned, those breaking point stacks are going to build up, and he's going to be able to survive for so long and do so much damage in the midst of these fights. But This is exactly the way Ferox plays. Like we mentioned it on the desk, their early game, not the strongest, but their late game team fighting, they've caught Hammers out completely, diving into their base while Hammers were still in the middle of the map. Hammers have finally recalled, but they're going to lose at least an armory off of this. How much more? Here comes the red mist spinning around on top of Hammers. The armory has fallen, but Pico and Moshi, they're still looking to try and survive and get some damage back. Big Githian Wall's gonna find a stun, and there is so much damage being done to the side of Hammers. Rock Bomber is still nearly full health as they find another kill, and it's now Moline trying to be a wall of defense, but not really going to be able to survive too much longer. Has to run out of the base to try and recall, but Ferox, they are on to the Vein Crystal. There's not enough damage left from Hammers to stop this, and Team Ferox will come from behind and take game number 1.
That was some beautiful Vainglory. We knew Ferox was going to be good. I don't know that I realized they were going to be this good. That was absolutely phenomenal stuff. Let's go ahead and throw it back to the desk.
All right, fantastic stuff coming out from Team Ferox. You can see where we are on the bracket right now. We're in the lower quadrant against Hammers, and they're trying to push forward to get that semi-final placing. And we'll see if they can do it in game number 2. But honestly, this was all about Rock Bomber right there. On that Rona, just doing so much work for his team, distracting. I mean, welcome back to the desk, Tasty Baker. Welcome back, welcome back. How is casting jumping on, saving us in the last second there?
Always an exciting adventure when you are told last second,
Yeah.
hey,
I mean,
we
great
need
job.
to fill in. Obviously, it was a lot of fun. Great to be back communicating with Flash X once again.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I mean, nothing feels much better than saying something on the analyst desk and then getting to call exactly what you were saying, with Ferox falling behind early, but then coming back and storming on late with those team fights. And Rock Bomber, you mentioned it, absolute star of the late game.
I mean, they literally, they personify the status of late game team. They just can't control the game in the early game, but they hold on by the skin of their teeth. And then later on, I mean, it's the classic Rona conundrum, right? Where you can't afford to focus Rona because she's tanky. You have to focus her for too long and you lose the team fight. But if you don't focus her, she is going to tear you apart later on in the game. We saw that right in front of our eyes there. People weren't sure if Rona would be as good in 5v5 because there's more players to focus her. Clearly, she's still a dominant force.
As long as you get to the late game with her, absolutely. But, you know, I want to also talk about Hammers and the fact that it felt like they had this game in the bag.
Yeah.
You know, they get the Black Claw, they find 2 kills. They very intelligent go for that split push move with it, but then they stay just a little bit too long in that top lane and then all of a sudden Pico's damage comes out of nowhere. Like, they had been controlling him all game long, and then all of a sudden he jumps in and just bursts down a target. They get that first kill, and it just spirals out of control.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we have to talk about Hammer's early game as well. We did see some great stuff coming out from them. Archaic, especially on the Fortress, did a great job trying to control them out, trying to make sure that things were happening. But unfortunately, they couldn't keep things together for long enough. I feel like they needed to, even though they were being proactive, I feel like they needed to put the accelerator down even more. They needed to finish the game faster if they were going to survive against the late. I mean, I think Moji actually probably did the most damage in that game on the Samuel, just from how long he was in the fights, just cleaving away with his...
I mean, Samuel frequently has the highest damage in games just by default because of all the AoE damage he dishes out. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a full team effort. And that's one of the things I love about watching Team Ferox play, is that you can't look at it and say like, oh, it was purely because of Rock Bomber, or it was only because of Pico that they won, or it was only Moshi. Like, it's the entire team coming together when they need to the most. I really want to see them show up this early game if they're gonna stand a chance against some of the top teams, but their late game team fighting prowess is excellent.
It certainly is. They've just got to get there. That's the biggest task for them right now. So far in the VPL, though, when we talk about the draft, we have only seen our brand new hero once. Silvernail is still pretty much yet to be seen. We saw him once in Europe, but it was in a game 2 of a series that was pretty much already set. So we didn't really get to see it showcased properly. Now, when I've been talking to players, there is even a CP version of this that's viable, but the issue with Silvernail, the reason that a lot of pros haven't been willing to pick him up, is he is such a late game hyper carry that you really struggle in the earlier stages of the game to be able to make it effective. But it is about time that we jump on into game number 2 of the series. Hopefully, we'll see something like a Silverdale. We have Ferox here, a late game team. I'd love to see them lock in the Silverdale.
It would definitely be a lot of very interesting to see them go for it. But again, have to keep our eyes on the Kensei, the Rona, Rock Bomber. Again, late game, this is where this guy shines and he makes plays happen. I actually did look at the damage done in that last game, and it was Rock Bomber at the top of the charts, even above Pico on the Anka or Mosji on the Samuel. So for a Rona to do more damage than either of those two mages is actually very impressive.
Yeah, it was the fight over at top lane when it really turned around for Ferox. We got to see Rock Bomber just jump in, had I think it was 3 targets that he could just spin around on, grabbed himself a triple kill. And importantly, the reason that, obviously for you guys that haven't seen Rona competitively in the past, the reason that that spinning around is so important, the ability itself doesn't necessarily do that much damage, but you build breaking point stacks so quickly that by the time you're done, you're definitely doing the damage. When you've got 20 stacks on a breaking point, you're gonna absolutely murk people.
And so that's gonna be Churnwalker coming through as the first pick, immediately gonna get answered with the Grumpjaw. So a lot of early game power for both of these sides now to start things off. We'll see how they're gonna try and round out these compositions as they move through this draft. Tony gonna be joining this Grumpjaw, so that's a lot of pressure that they can now apply.
Yeah, it certainly will be. We'll see how that Grumpjaw is gonna do up in this matchup. Obviously, Churnwalker is the first pick for the side of Ferox. Churnwalker incredibly strong, especially in the early game. Maybe that's the kind of pick that they need to tide them over. I'd love to see maybe an early game mid laner like we saw in game number 1. We saw them pick the Malene, help tide them through.
Well, they worked well for them last game. Pico with this Anka, very likely going to be in his hands once again.
I don't know why I said they had Malene in game 1. They definitely didn't have Malene in game 1.
I mean, Malene was in game 1, but it was on the side of Hammers.
Not on their side. Yeah.
but with, again, getting this Lance as well, I mean, they already had so much burst damage on their side last time that grabbing a similar composition, but throwing in a Churnwalker as well can just spread that damage so effectively. I really like what they're starting to do with this draft. Obviously, a lot of it's going to depend on now what gets picked up here by Hammers. They do go for the Celeste. That's one of the heroes that we a lot of times see paired with Churnwalker to be able to combo and work together to spread that damage, get those stuns. It can work really well, but they're going to be making sure that it doesn't go that combo over to the side of Ferox.
Yeah, they're going to leave the weapon power carry wide open as the final pick there on the side of Hammers. I'm curious which one they go for. Gwen definitely feels like one of the strongest right now, but there's definitely options, I mean, Kensei is obviously banned in this game, as he is in basically every game, but he's kind of the strongest. Idris going to be locked in. We've seen this like twice, I think, so far in the VPL.
There was 1 week where we saw Idris like in half the games that ended up getting played, but we haven't really seen it aside from that. Now hovering over that Rona as well. This would be a very, very powerful team when it comes to dishing out damage.
Again, very little early game.
Very little early game, but I mean, they just showed that that's not their style. They don't play for this early game. They are all about just surviving until the late game, until those power spikes come through.
When you look at Hammer's squad, it's not exactly an early game powerhouse squad either. They do have the Grumpjaw, obviously. Celeste will get real strong at level 8, but generally speaking, when you think of Celeste, when you think of Sky as carries, you don't think of the
They're more
very
mid-game.
early dominance.
Mid-game is where their power really comes through, but I think just having a Grumpjaw almost makes a team an early game composition almost by default. So it'll be interesting to see how they play around those power spikes. Obviously, Hammers, once they do hit that mid-game, they're really going to want to apply the pressure heavy and try and close this game out before Ferox can get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I mean, but if Ferox gets to the late game again, they've got Rona again. For any of you who haven't seen Idris competitively, later on in the game, he destroys health bars. He will be rampaging through those team fights. I'm curious whether they go weapon power or a CP, because they have a Rona and they have an Anchor. So either way, you're doubling up on one of the paths. It's kind of 2 different styles of play from Idris.
Maybe the hybrid.
Maybe
I highly doubt it, but it is a possibility.
All right, well, it's about time that we jump on into the second game here and find out which of these 2 teams will be jumping into our semi-finals. It's going to be Hammers versus Ferox, but I had a mind blank there. It's time to pass it over to FlashX and Humanist for game number 2.
Welcome to game 2 between Team Ferox and Hammers Esports. My name's Tasty Bacon. I'm joined by Humanist. My name's FlashX. I'm Humanist. I'm joined by FlashX. We got it. I'll be joined by Flash very shortly. We're into the game. I'm back. Sorry about game 1, guys. Had some issues on my side, but we're doing good here. Team Ferox taking that impressive victory in game 1. We'll see if they can do it back here into game 2. I'm sure it's going to be a very exciting matchup. I'm personally favoring a lot of the picks on the board here. Just very fun heroes to play, some of my favorites as well. Excited to see Mixi getting back in the mix, Archaic as well. We'll move down, take out their Crystal Trant, drop to the double camps, while Ali Peterson and Level look to dissuade Ferox off the pressure of their own jungle. As far as the early game pressure, I'd expect not to see too much unless someone actually gets caught. We'll have to see, maybe this Lance can land some nice impales as time goes on, set something up, but mostly he's just going to need to farm this out. Flash, are you back?
Humanist, I'm here, my friend. I guess it's pretty important when the game starts that you turn your mute button off. We're good to go, though. Jumping into game number 2. Glad to have you back, my friend. Well, yeah, things are looking very similar to game number 1. In all honesty, I am very surprised that Hammers gave Pico his Anka back yet again. That is going to be a pick that they're going to watch out for. Mixi on this Celeste now. He had Maline last game. Maline having a lot more in her kit to try and deal with something like that. If I were Mixi, if I were playing Celeste, I would be very, very concerned about this Anka.
It does feel like they have some tools, though. Like if Anka jumps in, they have ways to disrupt and or peel. It's something they'll have to keep their eyes on, though.
Absolutely. You do have the taunt coming out of Tony. You got a small little heal coming out of the Adagio. Grumpjaw, obviously that thick front line, but Anka with this Shimmer Blade is just so mobile. 1 second you think she's out of the fight, she blinks straight back on top of you. Definitely very, very efficient at taking down a lot of these squishy backline carries. Rock Bomber on this Rona played it so well in game 1. He's looking to get involved.
Mixi, just defensive core collapse, gonna make sure nobody jumps on in. You can see that from a mile away. Team Ferox with 4, Hammers have 5 here in the mid lane. Both teams kind of grouping up, waiting for these Crystal Treant spawns. Of course, they're going to be there right as it does spawn. Looks like Hammers secure their own, while Team Ferox drop 3 down over onto their side. I'm not sure if Archaic wants to move over for that. It should probably be taken up by the time he gets over there. And indeed, it will be.
Another slow start out of North America. Hammers having the vision down in this jungle. Ferox doing a great job at securing their camps. Illust trying to pressure Pico. Pico does manage to secure the healing Treant, so it's not going to make any bit of a difference. Moshi, CP Idris, not a hero that we have seen in a long time in this meta. Ferox today just completely changing the game with a lot of their picks. You gotta love the staple Lance Turnwalker combination. Chamu played the Lance so well in game 1, had a lot of very, very clutch Githian walls. He's gonna be looking to do a lot of the same here in game number 2.
I think it's going to be really interesting with you have the Anka that you have to really worry about. You're going to have Papa John up front on this churn, and that kind of leaves like this opening in the mentality of the game for like Idris to kind of get a lot done. And I feel like if you start to focus on shutting that Idris down, a lot of things are going to open up.
That's a big first blood for Hammers up in the top lane. Illis taking down the Anka. Pico forgot to press that flats button. Hammers gonna take the first turret of the game, so they do have the momentum swung a little bit in their favor. About 90 seconds away from that Ghost Wing coming online. Now's the time that they want to be using the early game strengths of this Grumpjaw, of this Tony, to extend their lead just a little bit so that they can continue to capitalize on these objectives. Moshi on this Idris in mid lane, not making it easy for them.
Not making it easy indeed. And talking about not easy, Level not having the easiest time down at bottom. It's not they're not finding kills on it, but he's consistently just shoved in down there. It's 2v1. He's just holding his own though, so you'd expect the Tony not to get picked off. He's pretty tanky. He's got very durable items. Not going to go down here in the early game, but definitely pinned on the back foot. Crystal Trant, Team Ferox will take it away from Hammers Esports. Hammers doing the same to their opponents here. 1-0, 5 minutes in, as both teams look to try and get a little control on this map.
Look to get a little bit of control. Ferox definitely have the advantage as far as vision goes. Gold, though, still very even, actually slightly in favor of Ferox. So Ferox having a little bit more efficient of these rotations, finding the last hits that they need to be able to find. So despite giving over that first blood bounty, I don't think they're too concerned about it. Idris, 4 crystal bits in a heavy prism. That is a lot of crystal power. He has that CP buff. I think Ferox is in the better position here to look to take that ghost swing if they want to try and melt it. I think they're just going to look for this kill on the level instead.
Yeah, they make the move onto level. You see that turret's also incredibly low, so they'll take this next. And this is like prime position, just absolutely perfect position to be taking the ghost swing. It's also a fountain was picked up for Chamu on that lance. These guys are ready to fight. Turrets dropped. Rock Bombers feeling good. Nah, that's a nice solar storm to come down the river from Mixi. That definitely sets a couple of their heroes behind.
Mixi definitely very competent on this Celeste. That Solar Storm was a lot of damage. I think that if it didn't connect, Ferox might even potentially look for a Ghost Wing capture right there. But it's going to be Hammers, the one starting it up, actually. And I don't even know if Ferox realizes that this is happening. And if they don't respond very, very quickly, that's going to be an objective that they might want to have back.
Oh man, if we rewind 45 seconds, it looked completely the opposite. Like Hammers were out of position. Team Ferox had everything to make that happen, but Hammers did the quick call to move down, take that objective, and that was clean.
They do have this Ghost Wing buff to use to their advantage as these heroes scale up. Mixi has the Spellfire on Celeste online now. Going to be looking to drop those mortal wounds onto Rona. But if once Rock Bomber picks up his block and he's just able to jump onto Celeste and spin Red Mist away, he might be in a little bit of trouble.
Spin to win. Rock Bomber is going to have to make sure he stays on target, but simultaneously doesn't get disabled up. It's an interesting style to play, but obviously was able to make it happen in game 1.
He was able to happen. Rock Bomber, one of these newer faces that he's definitely proving himself here. Hammer's definitely one of the most OG organizations in Vainglory. Papa John on this Churnwalker. Bottom lane, looking to get Hammers chained up.
He's jebaited in. He got rooted up by the trance, and he'll go ahead and trespass back. Rock Bomber pulls up to spin, trying to spin to win. It's not going to be enough as Hammers collapse down. They have plenty of damage now. Moji will be forced to use boots to get out of a sticky situation. That'll be 90-second cooldown or so. Mixi doesn't really have a nice lane back or path back into lane. You can see that's where he wants to go. I guess the move from level down the river on the top side will give Mixi a moment where he can get back. And Team Ferox looking to apply a little bit of pressure there in mid. Down in bottom, Hammer's able to take the bottom T1.
They've got to be happy about doing at least something off the back of that Ghost Wing buff. They didn't get too much done. The gold, though, still in favor of Team Ferox. I find this very, very interesting. This CP Idris, these Chakrams dealing massive amounts of damage. Pico on this Anka, though, finding a turret in the top lane. Churnwalker getting things chained up in the jungle. Ali Peterson dropping the Versa Judgment. Idris taking down the Sky. Hammers falling apart at the seams as Ferox step it up a notch, turn it up a notch, and Hammer seemed to be in a little bit of trouble. That was a great engage by Ferox. They're now flipping things completely on their head, taking down another turret in the mid lane, stealing away this Crystal Treant now as well. They have got to be feeling good.
Feeling good about that. That was a very successful turn of events for them, and now I guess you get a little vision down, try to control the pressure that you've put out onto the map. And as far as big power spikes, are you seeing anything that really stands out to you, Flash?
It's a lot more very similar. I think Papa John opting for this pull sweep first on Churnwalker is very, very interesting. He's going to be hopefully going for a Crucible next. They need something to be able to shut down that Versus Judgment. We do have a Crucible on Shamu, but I think kind of stacking them up, finding some more blocks, whether it's for a Death from Above or a Core Collapse, which will be very, very important for Ferox to have in these team fights. Ghost Wing back online now, and with Moji sitting with these double buffs, I really think Ferox, with the tempo that they're controlling right now, should look to get aggressive. Papa John extending himself a little bit into this bottom side jungle. Is it the right extension though?
Looks like it's the proper extension. Hook and chains will be blocked off. Pico up in the top side of the map will use boots to get himself out of that taunt. That was a dangerous situation. Most likely would have gone down if caught there. Pico actually finding Mixi on his way to. He's like, that's the rhythm of the game. When you escape a gank and you walk yourself into almost finding one of your own. But Pico mirages through this. This guy is like untouchable right now.
Pico definitely understands how to position, how to impact the map in ways that are very much against the meta. A lot of times you see people sticking with their teams. Ali Peterson in a little bit of trouble.
Ali Peterson will let the verse loose in the spirit world because that was just too much to handle. Team Ferox in full control, 4K net worth advantage as they mount the pressure onto Hammers Esports at this point. Nice vision down from Hammers, so they see that coming, but Pico still almost finding the kill there. That was pretty insane, and Archaic actually baited out had his stuff baited out, so that's going to be another 60-second cooldown for him.
Anka is just so mobile, and it's so hard to play against. Pico wants more. He finds one, but I think he's going to lose his life on the back of it.
Dude, that was nuts. Pico's going ham. This is the best Anka that I've seen competitively.
100%. He plays this pick regularly in ranked queue. If I'm against Pico, I'm definitely banning that out. That's not something I would want him to have if I were the one competing, but I'm not. Hammers felt like they could deal with it, but Pico making it happen here for the second time in a row now.
Do you feel like maybe that was a mistake in the draft, or do you think something that Hammers did consciously to just let it go through and be like, hey, we can beat this?
Maybe they don't know Ferox that well. Maybe they haven't had that much experience playing against Pico's Anka. Maybe they felt like they had the answer, but if they did, this is certainly not it. Archaic starting to ramp up a little bit on this Grum shot. He's got the tension bow. It looks like he might be going the proc build to the tension bow aftershock. A lot of burst damage. I don't know if necessarily that's what his team needed, though. I feel like a lot of the carries, or really all of them except for Idris, are very, very tanky or mobile enough, like the Anka, where they don't even have to worry about it. Ferox, though, looking for the first Black Claw capture of the game. Hammers rotating to get in position to contest.
They found Pico. Pico's in. He splits with the Mirage. Hard to lock this guy down. Well, Solar Storm will connect. Pico's got to get back. That's the fountain coming out of Chamu. We'll keep him alive. Black Claw was unleashed, and Rock Bombers in deep. Mixi's down. Suri Strike from the sky to try and reposition. Impale lands onto the Adagio as Grumjaw falls. A clean take by Moji. Now Ali Peterson left for dead as Hammers are falling apart at the seams. Pico, he's found Level isolated over here. You know Pico wants to go for this, but Level, you got to be careful. He could turn this around and pump out a fair bit of damage. They'll go ahead and proc off that Pulse Wave, then probably jump back in as a Black Clock continues to march down the lane. And it's just a little ring around the Rosie with Pico and Level. Armory goes down in that Hammer's base here. And Team Ferox, see how they're going to play this out. They're just going to go ahead and safely back on out. And these guys playing clean, patient, and simultaneously aggressive.
Very well calculated. Hats off to Ferox. They are showing that despite going up against the veteran Hammers team, they themselves are the veteran players, keeping their composure very, very well. Very happy to take down that one Armory, reset, go back, take the Ghost Swing. I absolutely love this shot call. I'd be really interested to know who the shot caller is for this team. Solar Storm coming in hot. Just a little bit too late, not able to find the steal. Ferox continuing their momentum.
That was a nice attempt out of Mixi. I don't think he even had vision on that, but a nice attempt. Not going to happen, though. Team Ferox continue their lead. Level hiding in the brush down here. I'm out of here. Surprise! Hi, guys. They'll go ahead and clean out this wave that was crashing down onto his T2 in the bottom lane, while Pico continues to move forward. Has that Ghost Wing buff, looking for a target. He's found Mixi. Mixi, this could be bad for you. He's in. He's got the blades damage coming out. I don't put Mixi down at 30% health, but quickly backup arrives. As you see, these hook and chains coming out. Papa John's got the trespass onto Adagio to set up the impale. Mirage comes out. Try to keep track of this Anka through this fight. Pico is in deep. Well, Rock Bomber just spins all over him, baby. Archaic is stuffed up, so he's going to pull him back to the healing platform. Is this going to be enough? Slumbering Husk procs off. Rona's able to get out of it. Okay, that's how you know you lost the game. My goodness, Team Ferox, this is a dominating performance right here. Absolutely putting on a show. Hammers Esports, I mean, I thought this is a team to be reckoned with, but Team Ferox, holy wow.
Team Ferox stepping it up big time, definitely drafting to their strengths. The question is, how deep do these hero pools go and how will they survive? They are in the semi-finals now. We'll go ahead and throw it back to the desk.
Thank you once again, Flash and Humanist. We have an upset on our hands, and we have Team Ferox confirming that they are a top four team in North America.
Yeah, absolutely incredible performance out of Ferox. And this time, they didn't fall way behind in the early game. That's one of the things we said after game one that we want to see them improve upon. I still think they need to improve upon it a bit more if they're going to go up against the top 3 teams in North America. But this is at least strides in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Proving themselves. Let's take a look at where they stand now in the bracket as they're going to be climbing on up the stairs. And, bear in mind that this is a team that before today, before this week, no one was really talking about Ferox. Nobody was expecting them to have the performance that they have over the course of the last week. They won NACL. Now they've confirmed themselves as a semi-finalists in the VPL.
And with that means there's only one spot left. It's going to be either Tribe or Rampage guys that joined them. So now they're going to be watching this next game very intently, hoping that they can find some weaknesses in their next opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to talk about Hammers as well on the back of that game. Obviously, they did have a decent performance, especially in game one. They were ahead for the majority of the game. Definitely some things to tidy up there, maybe a little bit more cohesion. They lost grip of what was happening in game number one. And game number two, I feel like it was more of a mentality thing, like getting back on the horse, as opposed to the draft was fine. It wasn't an issue with the composition, but just couldn't abuse the early game in the way they needed to with that grub jaw.
Yeah, and that really is one of the shortcomings of a team like that. When you see them have a hero that is meant to be filling a specific role, and they aren't able to capitalize on that at all, when really there wasn't. We said both of these teams are looking very late game focused.
Yeah.
The early game should have favored Hammers here against a team that struggles in the early game, but they just, like you mentioned, they just didn't use the Grump Jaw to its full effect to what we've seen other teams able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is going to be Ferox moving on forward, guaranteeing that they are a top 4 team in North America right now. Exciting times for this team, and I'm excited to see what else is in store for them. Before we jump into the next series of the day, though, let's have a word from Razor. We are broadcasting to you live from Las Vegas, Nevada. We're in the heart of the Strip at the Aria Resort and Casino in the Poker Go studio. And we're ready to get into the last quarterfinal of the North American Vainglory Premier League. We're ready to jump further on into this tournament. And this is the Poker Go format of the tournament. It's best of 3 single elimination. Hammers have just felt the wrath of that format. Ferox moving forward, we have one last best of 3 in our quarterfinals.
Yeah, one last team to determine who's going to be in the top 4, and 3 of those top 4 teams will be walking away with a share of the Dollar Shave Club prize pool. You can see $5,000 up for grabs in each region, $10,000 total on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. $3,000 is the first place prize. Definitely these teams fighting to get their grubby mitts on top of that. But let's take a look at the next head-to-head we have coming up. Of course, brought to you guys by Playvig. It is going to be Tribe up against Rampage Gods. Now, this is definitely going to be a difficult battle, I think it's fair to say, for the Rampage Gods. Let's not sugarcoat it too much. Tribe, they were the first seed coming into the tournament. They've got Chuck stepping into the roster. Rampage Gods, they've got their work cut out here.
Yeah, it feels very much like a mirror of Europe, where we had Queso, as the very dominant team with Techno JJ stepping back into the lineup. Now you have Tribe with Chuck's now starting into this lineup.
Yep.
So it's very much feels like a mirror of that. I don't expect it to be too much different in terms of end result either. Obviously, Rampage Gods making it this far is impressive, but this is Tribe we're talking about. This is a team that was dominant in the preseason finishing very strong. They fell to Nova, they fell to TSM, but everyone else it just didn't even come close to them.
And speaking of Chuck on TSM stepping on into the roster, let's take a look at some of his statistics from the preseason, because obviously he's had a hiatus for the start of the VPL. He was in preseason with TSM, and you can see he was putting up huge numbers. This is what we managed to pull together, and he was almost double the KDA of the average player, 150 extra gold per minute of the game. That is a ton of gold over every game over the average player. Like, this guy is an absolute monster.
Yeah, that is a lot of gold, and even the CS almost double what the average CS is. Obviously, Chuck, though, is only one player. The rest of Tribe is also going to be around him, and that's another star-studded lineup with Max Green, Old School, Gabe Vizzle, and I Love Joseph. Keep in mind, this team still has T-Tigers waiting in the wings if need be.
Worth mentioning, Zelsier as well helps a lot with the draft and ready to step in if the moment occurs. Let's take a look at their opponents coming on into this series. It's Rampage Gods. Now, this is a team much less known than the likes of Tribe, but a team that wants to prove themselves, wants to build their legacy. They're already in the quarterfinals. It's T-Blade, Wheel, Afterburns, Czech Sailor, and then JDA Green. So excited to see what these guys are going to be able to bring to the table, because obviously they've made it this far in the tournament. It's not a team to be sniffed at. They made it past the round of 16, but now they're against Tribe. It's never going to be an easy task, but there's opportunity for them to strut their stuff.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit in Europe as well, where even if you don't win, if you just look strong, you can send a clear message to the rest of the region. If you are a strong individual player on this team, you can make a name for yourself and try and get yourself further opportunities in future seasons. But that's what this is really mostly going to be the focus. Obviously, if they can beat Tribe, that's unbelievable for the side of Rock Bombers. They instantly become a top team, but that's not what is expected of them coming into this game.
I mean, when you look at this, if you're a player on a team like Rampage Gods up against one of the big names, you have to think of this like, yes, you're not a known player right now, but everybody has to start that path somewhere. This is the opportunity to put your name on the map, to make a mark on the scene. And if you can solo kill one of the Tribe players in lane, if you can look great across the course of this game and this series, maybe, just maybe, you'll have an opportunity to either join another team, or this team will grow over the course of the next few tournaments. I fully expect the teams that have made it to the quarterfinals especially, I want to see them returning to the VPL, seeing growth in the teams. And in this game specifically, with Rampage Gods, I'm going to be watching out for who the big names are going to be, who I need to be looking out for in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many times we've seen that the teams that stick together tend to be able to put up better and better performances as they go along. TSM, that was one of their hallmarks for such a long time, was that they were a roster that was unchanged for multiple seasons. One of the few teams to remain unchanged, and they were one of the few teams that were consistently putting up those top-level performances as they continued to grow as a team. While the rest of the competition around them was improving, they stayed together and improved as a squad. And that's one of the things that I really want to see come from more teams now going forward in Vainglory.
One of the biggest things has just been how quickly you understand 5v5. Obviously, this is the first year of 5v5. Let us know as well who you think is going to be able to take this series on Twitter. Use the hashtag VPL. Let us know if you think Rampage Gods are going to be able to upset the apple cart here, or whether this is going to be all about Tribe. Now, I do want to take a moment to cast our minds back while we wait for these players to get in the lobby to what happened yesterday, specifically with Nova, because Nova managed to make it on into their semi-final in style. Let's take a look at our Rockstar Rewind.
Yeah, this was one of our first upset alerts for the side of Nova, where the members of Vegetable Juice were very confident heading into this one, but Nova absolutely showed up on another level and were able to take down Vegetable Juice cleanly and decisively, and with some unconventional picks too. Running that Crystal Power Lyra, getting them into the semifinals.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at that first semifinal that we've got on the plate. Nova Esports against Vision Gaming, going to be happening next weekend on Saturday. That is one of the best matchups we can get in the entire region. We'll have very likely to be Tribe going up against Ferox. I don't want to call it before it's happened, but it's definitely Tribe favored. But I mean, Nova versus Vision, when you think about those two teams, they're pretty opposite styles of play. You've got Nova, who want to fight, they want to make plays, they want to go and build a composition around those team fights, whereas Vision, quite the opposite. They want to play around the map. They don't want to be skirmishing all the time. They just want to be taking objectives.
Yeah, but they also take those objectives so quickly. That's one of the things that sets Vision Gaming apart, is how fast they're able to just swarm onto these objectives and take them down. And Nova, obviously, a team that looks for fights. If they can look for these fights defensively, I think that's really their best way to get in against a team that plays the way that Vision does. So that's something that you got to keep in mind.
Yeah.
If you're side Rampage God, looking back at this matchup, you know that Tribe is now very likely going to be incorporating a bit of that early objective rush style, thanks to Chuck joining this team.
Yeah.
And so maybe you start looking for those defensive fights. Wait for those rotations. Once you spot out where they're going to be going, try and just swarm to those locations and prevent those objective rushes.
Yeah, try and prevent that rotational play. Try and read what your opponent is going to be doing. Honestly, next week's game between Vision and Nova is going to be all about the jungle, all about those rotations. It's going to be Delphi versus Cos. Like, at the end of the day, they're two of the best jugglers in the entire world, never mind North America. It's going to be all about the mind games, all about reading each other. They both love to invade. They both love to try and control the opponent. Going head to head, I cannot wait to see who comes out on top of that one.
It's going to be a lot of fun for sure. I mean, both regions have a lot of really fun matchups. Looking forward to the semifinals. I mean, we're ending up with most of the top seeds ending up in the top 4, which is just going to lead to fantastic games. Can't wait till they get underway next weekend when we have the semifinals and the finals all wrapped up in one weekend.
I know, I cannot wait to see these semi-final matchups. Speaking of semi-final matchups, let's take a look at two of the teams that are likely to be in the semi-finals. Tribe still haven't qualified just yet, but they are very likely to do so. And when we compare these two teams, these are the first 2 seeds in the entire tournament. You can very visibly see the different styles. You've got a very objective-focused game on the side of Vision with the extra turret kills, whereas you've got a very kill-oriented game on the side of Tribe. And one of the big questions for me today is, does that remain the style for Tribe now that Truck is in the roster? How much do they change up their gameplay?
Yeah, that's what I'm really curious about. I want to see if they are going to be adapting more of that old TSM style from the preseason. And I think that they should. I mean, they lost to TSM pretty handily in the preseason. I think Chuck can bring a lot of that extra insight that they maybe were missing out on or were overlooking in the preseason, and can really help to bring this team even further above and beyond the rest of the North American region.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious as well to see how early they push for these objectives for the likes of Tribe. Because when we were talking about Hammers versus Ferox, Ferox is going to be the next opponent for whoever wins this series. And Ferox's weakness was pretty plainly the early game in that series. If you're the likes of Tribe, you want to be focusing on the early game in this series and moving forward. Because if you can dominate the early game against this opponent, get ready to do the same against your next opponent, you could book your ticket to the finals.
Yeah, not only that, but you can send fear into your opponents. Because if I'm Ferox, Ferox, they obviously understand that the early game is their weakness. If you watch Tribe come out and just destroy this early game, then all of a sudden you're looking at it like, man, we're going to have to deal with that. How are we going to figure it? Like, you can send that doubt creeping into your opponent's mind before you even end up playing. So that's another reason why you want to see. This is why I talk about all the time, where even if you're against a team that you're expected to beat, you should be bringing your A game and absolutely looking to make those games as quick and clean as possible, just to send messages to the rest of the teams still competing.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we saw yesterday in Europe as well. Clash going up against their opponent, taking it very casually and still dominating the game. It sends a message to the other players. Let's take a look at what was happening actually yesterday in Europe and earlier today as well, because we have our top 4 decided. Sly earlier on this morning managed to take out Fiery Tail 2-0. Incredibly close game 1. Game 2, not so much. Sly managing to kind of roll forwards with that victory. Then we had Queso going up against Ashura as well. And Queso looking like the stronger team. Azura very much new kids on the block, and you expect Queso to take that matchup. But Ashura definitely showed some good stuff there. And we can see our final bracket for Europe as the semifinals are locked in. Clash Rising Lotus and Queso Sly.
Yeah, 2 fantastic matchups coming our way next week. Can't wait for them. Again,
Let's talk about Rising Lotus for a second, because that was an upset and a half. Defeating Divine Vendetta, I think probably the best European matchup we've had in the tournament so far. It was 2-0, but honestly, it felt like it should have been 3 games. Rising Lotus managing to really play out of their minds.
Yeah, and really, even if we were to expand further back to the, beyond the round of 16, like that whole string leading up to this matchup was so good. We had Historic Esports absolutely dominating their opponents in the play-in round, and then Divine Vendetta handling business against the Historic, which was a really entertaining game. And then Divine Vendetta versus Rising Lotus, I still think might have been the most entertaining series that we've had thus far in the VPL Summer Open. And so make sure if you haven't watched it, go back and watch those VODs, because it is incredibly fun to see. And now that's going to be carried over even further into the semifinals. It should be another really exciting matchup.
Honestly, and we've seen Clash, they like to disrespect opponents.
Yes.
So they can't underestimate Rising Lotus going into that semi-final, because Rising Lotus have proven that they are not a team to be trifled with, managing to upset Divine Vendetta. They're looking for that Cinderella story into the finals. We'll see if they can make that happen next weekend. But obviously, that is how things look in Europe. We are just waiting for Rampage Gods to get onto the server now before we can start the final quarterfinal for North America and get those semifinals locked in. Rampage Gods, definitely a team with a lot cut out for them right here. We've already mentioned how, they're up against Tribe. It's not an easy matchup for them. Maybe feeling the intimidation right now.
Very well could be. Hopefully they don't get too shaken by this, but because you're also a team that you're playing with nothing to lose at this point. Like, again, this is a situation where there are very, very, very few people that would expect you to take this game off of Tribe, as we are going to be getting into our first draft. So this is a chance for you to just showcase yourself, have some fun, go out there, look for some kills, maybe find a solo kill. If you solo kill Chuck in the mid lane as a member of Rampage Gods, you have suddenly just made a name for yourself within the Vainglory community.
So I'm so excited to see Chuck in the mid lane as well. I'm so excited to see how that is going to develop this style of Tribe, how different they're going to look with Chuck versus with Dienzio way back in, I think it was week 2 we saw them, so it feels like so long ago at this point. I'm excited to see where they do go with this one. I know when it comes to the draft, this is a team that is willing to kind of go off the ball. I know they have a whole team of analysts working with them. Little Pepe and Viziox. Zelsia helps a lot with the draft as well. We've got T-Tigers knocking around as well. So this is a team that has a huge amount of infrastructure to build these compositions and to research during the week how to play the game.
There's also the fact that I've been looking up here every so often to take a look at some of their recent games, and I've been seeing a handful of Silvernail. So maybe we get to see him on the rise once again, as we'll take a look at what Tribe decide to do with their bans and where they go with that first pick that they're going to have.
I mean, if I want to see a carry player picking up Silvernail and kind of showcasing it, I feel like Old School is probably the guy to do it. He's renowned for his sheer mechanical skill. I mean, I always think of him on that Adagio. It's all about mechanical skill. It's all about stutter stepping. Silvernail's not that different in terms of the mechanics required. Definitely an incredibly high skill cap hero.
Yeah, and it's, again, one of the reasons that you mentioned, you talked to a lot of teams and why they were saying that they aren't playing it is because how high the skill cap is, that they just aren't comfortable bringing him out yet because they don't feel like they have come close to that skill cap. And it's a very difficult hero to play at the top level. But like you mentioned, if there is a team that is going to run it, this is one of them.
So Churnwalker going to be the first lock-in for the likes of Tribe. Very standard so far. The Samuel ban is the only thing that's not really standard right now. I'm a little bit curious as to why that ban has been taken off. I'd assume that is something that they want to pick something up, and Samuel does particularly well into it. I'm trying to think. I can't think of many heroes that are hard counted by Samuel though.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just the whole AOE idea, like they wanted to take that away, but it's going to be Tony picked up from the side of Rampage Gods. Obviously, a very solid first pick, one of these heroes that you can plug into just about any composition and still find great effect. They're going to go for the Flicker, though, as their second pick. So a lot of teams have been going for the Grumpjaw on this first rotation. Not going to be looking to take that here.
I'm calling this is going to be a Grumpjaw Maleen coming out from Tribe. That's my prediction here. They love to have some early game control. Maleen.
I'd say either Grumpjaw Maleen or Grumpjaw Celeste. Because really, Celeste, Maleen, Samuel, those are like the three heroes that Chuck plays the most right now. They are going to grab the Maleen. And
Come on,
let's see if
Grumpjaw.
they go for
We'll
the
see if they go
Grumpjaw.
for it.
I mean, it would make a lot of sense. Again, Grumpjaw
Yeah.
is so strong right now.
They could also go for something like an Arden that works incredibly well with Churnwalker. It's something we've seen that as a combo. We've seen a lot across the course of the tournament. So I'm curious where they do go. Obviously, this is Tribe as well. They like to show off a little bit. We could see something completely off the wall.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see a Saw, but, you know, it is going to be the Arden that they do grab here. And so now, Rampage Gods, they still have the chance to grab that Grumpjaw if they want, but I feel like if you don't take it in that first rotation, you're likely not going to be leaning towards the Grumpjaw as a pick. They do take themselves a Celeste though, so again, taking their answer mid laner against the Malign. So that's one of those matchups that head-to-head favors Celeste a little bit, but there is the opportunity for Malign to make those outplays.
Mega late game coming out from Rampage Gods right there. Celeste and Baron. I would look, the Grumpjaw perfectly fits Rampage Gods composition right now. Just to round that out so you've got a bit of early game. I would not be surprised to see Tribe State.
I was going to say, the issue with taking a Grumpjaw there for the side of Rampage Gods is you don't have much late game protection for these carries. Baron and Celeste, again, if they get jumped on, are going to melt quickly. Lance will come through for the side of Tribe, so not a lot of damage on the side of Tribe just yet. You need to see some weapon power come out.
I mean,
Maybe
that could be
something
the
like a
main
Silver
lance.
Nail could come through for their final pick. I'm just really pushing for the Silver Nail pick, really.
I would love to see this over there. We'll see if that's going to happen. I don't want to say it before it's actually locked in. Vox, a little bit safer,
That's upsetting.
And it's something that we've seen old school play a ton of over the years. So it's not a surprising pick. A little bit disappointed we didn't see a Silver Nail. I was hoping maybe Tribe would be the team for that, but definitely a very solid composition and also a good amount of cleave coming out from this team. With the Churnwalker and the Arden as well to lock everyone into that grouped team fight. I'm excited to see what Tribe can do with this composition.
Yeah, and I think the Vox is also pretty smart because they knew they needed something that can compete with those late game damage coming out from a Celeste and Baron. And Vox,
Interesting.
once he gets ramped up, can do that.
I'm not 100% convinced by the Lyra at the end there. You got Celeste and Baron. I feel like you needed something like, like a Finn. Something with a good amount of CC. Lyra, great for hard engaging. You don't really want a hard engage when you're the Celeste and the Baron. You want to be engaged on. Definitely good for kiting as well, though. But just we'll have to watch how those ultimates are going to be used during the game. Tribe, very much team fighting composition. Look for them grouping up and trying to force the issue early on in the game.
Yeah, and also using some range and the AoE damage that they have to force members of Rampage Gods away from objectives so that they can take them down.
Here we go. The game is about to kick off. It's time to get underway with our last quarterfinal here in North America. It's time to find out if Tribe can make it to the semis or if Rampage Gods have got an upset on their hands. Time to pass it back over to Humanist and FlashX to kick off game number 1.
Boy, oh boy, do we have a show for you today. My name is Humanist. I'm joined by FlashX, and you have Tribe Gaming versus Rampage Gods Game 1. These teams clashing right off the bat, just throwing blows.
Forcing Joseph on this Churnwalker to use his boots almost immediately. This is one of his signature picks. Not a pick that we typically see in the jungle, but with how strong Churnwalker is in the meta right now, I'm not surprised to see him go for it. Max Green trying to secure some of the jungle for his team. Rampage Gods not giving it over for free, but Gabe Bizzle stealing away one of those healthy bears.
So it's like a little vitamin bear. You get in there, a little Vanguard, feeling good. Boosted immune system, getting work done.
Exactly. Tribe, definitely the favors coming into this one. I actually really like Rampage Gods drafts. I think that it offers a lot. I think it suits the meta very well. The Tony, the Flicker, the Lyra, very tanky in these front lines, doing what they can to repel Tribe. The problem is Joseph, with this Churnwalker, he's going to play such an important role in these team fights, getting super tanky as quick as possible, trying to chain up as many people as possible. He's going to be very critical for Tribe's success here today.
So can you talk to us, how does that work? Because he's not really like your typical jungler. So it means anytime he's doing a rotation, he has to have someone else pretty much clearing camps for him?
It's all about the utility. It helps hyper farm some of these carries. Old school on his signature Vox pick. Chuck, obviously now on Tribe, replacing the Enzio from the roster. Would love to see or hear why exactly that happened, but Chuck certainly gonna fill those shoes very, very well. Obviously, one of the most talented mid laners in the history of Vainglory. So I'm sure we're gonna see a lot of the same stuff coming out of Tribe. It's just gonna come out into some stylistic differences. Old school, obviously, going down into that bot lane now, but Tribe have looked very, very strong in the VPL thus far.
Yeah, Chuck. Yeah, he used to play for some team I can't remember off the top of my head, but I heard they were pretty good.
Yeah, some solo mid guys. I don't know. I don't think they're around anymore.
Yeah, that doesn't even make sense.
Rest in peace.
Chuck's gonna have a good time though here, and it's great to see him out on the rise. It's gonna be Chuck, Joseph, and Old School living in the jungle of Rampage Gods right now. Rampage Gods don't have their in-game tag. Well, we will forgive them for that one.
Rampage Gods finding the nice little counter invade into the jungle. They're doing a good job keeping the gold relatively even for a team like Tribe, who does know Vainglory so well. To stay this even, I think, it's impressive. A lot of teams just falter when you going up against such a giant. I mean, Queso earlier we saw just flex out of control. It's hard to keep your composure when it is a David versus Goliath style matchup, but Rampage Gods holding firm, at least this far in, but certainly have a big task here ahead of them.
You know, Flash, I've been doing this casting thing for a while, and I've developed a bit of a sense when a good caster's curse is applied onto a team, and my goodness, the curse you just threw down was a strong one.
Are we cursing Tribe here, or are we cursing Rampage Gods?
Oh, I think you just cursed Rampage Gods hard.
I think that they were cursed before the game even started.
Wow.
With
It was
this
a
kind
blessing.
of matchup. Yeah,
Isn't that a confusing thing, how something could be a blessing and a curse at the same time?
it's interesting how things work out that way. Afterburns on this Lyra, doing what he can to keep just Kayla healthy in this mid lane. It is very hard to trade against a Maline. Just Kayla. Chuck with that
Dude.
burst damage.
That is so sweet. And to have the Arden there, like, you make that jump, then you get that Vanguard, you're slingshot it forward. So like, if Chuck feels like he can get that kill, he's going for it. He's gonna get out, no harm, no foul. So I really like that play. Once again, they're getting aggressive. This time Shiskela does not have that healing flask, so this is probably a back, and it looks like it will be.
Chuck and Gabe is quite the dynamic duo. Joseph and Old School pressuring this bot lane as well, making sure Rampage Gods do not have any time to breathe whatsoever. Chuck and Gabe rotating in for this Crystal Treant as it's about to respawn. Joseph picking up his Pulse Weave. Gabe Vizzle picking up his Fountain. Those are some huge power spikes coming out for Tribe, and Rampage Gods need to answer here very quickly.
What do you think an appropriate answer would be to these item pickups and the small net worth lead building up over here?
You definitely want to see the Spellfire coming out of Celeste. Churnwalker will stay alive way too long in team fights, especially if he's left uncontested. Joseph dropping the Trespass onto Wheel in the bot lane. It's not going to matter. Flicker, such a tanky hero. He's got the life spring, so he's got that passive regen going. Doing what he can to try to hang on to this bottom side turret.
Life Spring not gonna save him if he gets pulled in a little too far, and he does indeed. He's down. Wheel. And the wheels come off the wheel.
Joseph putting up so much pressure. Tribe rotating for this Ghost Wing. Yes, they are going to start it up very quickly. Perhaps one of the quickest Ghost Wing really starts we've seen all day thus far. Right at this 6-minute mark, they're heading in that direction. They pick up one kill, get the first blood, get the Ghost Wing. The gold that was even a second ago has strung dramatically in Tribe's favor. The momentum starting to lean in their favor. Rampage Gods needs to be careful.
Yeah, with this buff, they're going to go ahead and shove down the bottom T1. Instantly gets dropped. Look at Chuck. Oh, my goodness. Taking that Celeste incredibly low. Celeste's going to be happy to have Afterburns on this Lyra there. Those sigils will keep her in lane. But it's more about that burst damage and keeping yourself like out of harm's way there.
Lyra picking up the Crucible. Going to be very important for scaling with a lot of these heals keeping her team alive. She needs to find some good blocks, though. Chuck, a little bit out of position.
Chuck, get out of this one. Do they have a Vanguard? They have a Vanguard. My man, Gabe Vizsla right there to keep him healthy. Fountain comes out as well. Now our Rampage God's in a bad position. Look at the Trespass, finding a Sun to start things off. It'll be Baron first to drop. Now Rampage Gods, it's time to tuck, tail, and run. Celeste will fall. Old School stays on target. Look at this guy. He's got his weapon buff. Triple kill for Old School. That's just money, money, money right there.
Money, money, money is right. Tribe blowing this game wide open with the ghost buff, making sure they're capitalizing on that extra little barrier, the healing, the damage, everything starting to go their direction. Rampage Gods need to hold on. Baron and Celeste take quite a while to really get online. That's definitely the weakness of their composition. Tribe understanding and identifying this immediately, taking advantage here in the early game.
Bit of return aggression coming out, and Jada Green was playing games with Chuck and Gabe Vizsla there, and down in bottom, Joseph and Old School continue to apply this pressure. The T2 is down, and in fact, Wheel looks to potentially be engaged upon here. I don't think he gets out of this one. They block off the Trespass. That's maybe what he was waiting for, just like hovering on the block, but he gets yanked on back. Joseph, get over here.
Joseph making the plays on Churnwalker on the other side of the map. Gabe Vizsla had a beautiful gauntlet, catching 2 out of position. 8-0, 5k gold lead. Tribe really starting to flex immediately. They're going to look to invade the Rampage Gods jungle, put them further and further behind. Not only is the gold lead starting to spiral out of control, so is this level differential. Tribe going to be aggressed upon. Need to kite back just a little bit. Chuck's damage on this Molino. He's double buffed. He's got the dragon side. When he stacks up, that is not a hero that you want to stand in front of.
I didn't realize that was the build that he was going for, but it seems super dangerous, especially like you said. And he's had the ability to stack up through these fights, and it's just gonna get out of hand. A couple, like the last engage, the one at Old School got the triple kill on. That was a pretty extended duration engagement.
Chuck understands very well that he's going to struggle trying to get onto these backlines of Baron, of Celeste, unless they're putting themselves out of position. So he just wants to stack on these front lines, and once he ramps up enough stacks, it's just going to be go time. He's going to pull the trigger, go swing back on live. Tribe immediately rotating in that direction. Max Green in a little bit of trouble in the top lane. He'll be able to combat roll out of harm's way, though.
Is that like a combat roll and simultaneously a bada boom?
It looked like it right at the same time, but the turret falling, signs of life out of Rampage Gods. It might be too little too late. His Tribe finds a little bit of reset, hitting some more power spikes. The Rampage Gods, they need to find an opening here very, very soon. Otherwise, Tribe might just run away with this.
Wheel moving in under the guise of invisibility. Grizz with the jump jets in has the double attack, but it looks like he actually applies 0 damage as he jumps in there. This is insane.
Chuck hitting that invulnerability, getting out of harm's way. Gabe Vizsla so tanky at this point, frontlining for his team. The gauntlet is in.
The gauntlet down, surrounding this turret. There's nowhere to go. Grizz has fallen. Tribe hasn't lost anybody yet. Look at them just juggling the aggro, juggling the damage as well. And Rampage Gods forced back under their T2. All they can do is watch as that turret drops in the mid lane. And Tribe, you know, not, I wouldn't say playing with their food right now, but just honestly having a grand old time.
Chuck has this Aftershock online. Old School!
Old School! What's up, Flash? Old School just popped off right here. He's got a couple breaking point stacks. He's gonna get 3. He's gonna get 3. He's gonna get in there. Oh, he's gonna get out. Get 4. Get 4. Get 5. Get 5. Get the quadra kill. Oh, you stole the pinto away.
Joseph stole it from him. Old School has got to be triggered that he was just wrong.
Joseph's off the team, dude. Chief
Rest
Pat
in
just
peace,
kicked him.
Joseph. Get Tigers back in the jungle.
Oh, my man.
He's been waiting for this moment, but Old School, he ramped up his breaking point, flipped the switch, went in. Tribe so clean. 10k gold lead, 14-0. They're starting to run away with it.
Dude, Old School, this guy, I think he's played Vox before, right?
A time or two.
Like any Vox player, knows like when there's this point when you get your first 2 items up and that one of them is a breaking point. Like it stacks up, you just go, especially if that other item is a lifesteal. Old School, one of the best at it. He saw that opening and just went for their throats. That was a thing of beauty. Now up to Black Claw at this point, things getting pretty scary. No, they're incredibly scary for Rampage Gods. They're gonna do their best to maybe try and make a play happen under Mooncloak over here, trying to be elusive. Grizz jump jets back, doesn't have a whole lot of damage to pump out. Solar Storm flies through. Tribe just shrug it off as they continue bulldozing forward. They found Afterburns. Afterburns will pop that fountain, but drops Grizz. Jump jets allow him to reposition and stay alive. But all Rampage Gods can do is run.
Old School. Basic attacking for 548 on a Vox. Vox, not one of the heroes known for this burst damage, but when he gets ramped up with the Serpent's Mask and Breaking Point and the monocle on the back of it, he can just go in. Gabe stealing away that weapon tree, rubbing salt in the wound of Rampage God. Black Claw unleashed. I'm not sure how much longer Rampage are going to be able to hang on.
I think this game is going to end around 14 minutes and 15 seconds.
That's the prediction, about 45 seconds left. I think it's going to be a little bit longer than that. Out. Try following it back in.
Try and move in. The gauntlet has been thrown. Not the greatest engage, and Max took a lot of damage, but hello and goodbye, Mr. Baron. Jump jets won't save you from that one as Tribe move in. Base turret is dropping low as Tribe continues to zone out. Rampage Gods. Let's see. People are about to get popped. Celeste down. Afterburns down. Double kill coming through for Old School's Vox. He wants Jada Green. You're gonna get him. Gotta get him up to the healing platform. Old School's gonna not be able to get that one, but Tribe just rounding up Rampage Gods, and the clock is ticking. 15 seconds. Flash, we're looking pretty good for this prediction here. Come on, boys.
How could I doubt you?
Ah, man, I was off. I was off by a few seconds here, so granted, and you're never gonna be right on, but hey, that's pretty close.
That was pretty close. I 19-0 dominant performance out of Tribe. They are certainly the team to beat in North America.
That was a thing of beauty. It's always great to see Tribe play. And to break this one down a little bit, let's go ahead and throw it back over to our analyst desk.
Thanks again, as always, Flash and Humanist, and a 19-0 nigh on perfect game coming out from
Nearly
Tribe.
a perfect game. One turret shy of a perfect game coming out from Tribe.
And I just want to mention how me and you were talking about Tribe during this game. We were saying, they're not pushing too hard. They were playing it fairly slow. Every objective they took, they knew that they could take it. There was no risks. It was very, very clean, very coordinated. And then Old School jumps in 1v4 and tries to get the pentakill. Almost pulls it off as well. Just Joseph stole the kill.
Yeah, and just with a Churnwalker steals the kill too. Like, that is premeditated stealing of a kill if you're a Churnwalker there. But absolutely, Joseph just taking that penta away from Old School. But what a game from Tribe. I mean, again, we expected to see them dominate, and that's exactly what they did.
This was an absolute masterclass, and part of me is a little bit disappointed because we didn't really get to see Chuck shining there. It was all about Old School, Old School on the Vox, just tearing up the game. But I do want to take a look at where we are in the bracket right now, what this all means for Tribe, because they are fighting right now to try and make it on into the semi-final. Not only that, they will be the fourth and final semi-finalists, which means they'll make it to that top 4 standing. This is something that is expected of them. To not look this dominant against Rampage Gods will quite frankly be a bit of a travesty for Tribe.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I talk about all the time, where when you're up against a team where you're expected to win and expected to have a very strong win, you need to have just as strong of a win. To take a look at our Rockstar rewind of what Tribe is able to do.
Yeah, and this is them in week number 2 against Toxic Peace. They looked just as dominant back then. It was a little bit messier than the game we saw just now, but just as coordinated. They know exactly how much damage they do. They're willing to dive under these turrets. They're willing to make the plays happen, but it's not just recklessly. It's, okay, when is our power spike? Once you've got 2 items, okay, the second that happens, let's go. Let's make a play. Let's dive the turret. Let's divide the enemy team and conquer the map.
Yeah, their ability to dive turrets is actually what stands out so much to me, is that the way that they juggle the turret aggro as well. of saying, okay, one person's going to go in, he's going to get turret aggro, he's going to hold it for 3 shots, and then leave turret range. So someone else picks up turret aggro, they hold it for 2 shots, then they swap out, and they do that constantly when they're being aggressive underneath enemy turrets, and just being able to have that knowledge in your head of, okay, I know exactly how much damage I can withstand before I need to pass this off to someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to juggle that, it's a difficult skill to have. And bear in mind, the turrets ramp up damage the longer you're taking hits from them. So it's important that you don't take too many individually before passing it off as well. So fantastic stuff coming out from them. I expect to see a very similar thing in game number 2. What I'm hoping for in game number 2, though, is maybe we get to see something like a Silvernail.
Yeah, I would love to see Silvernail come out. And obviously, it's not just because he's, it is just because he's new, but we really want to see new heroes get played in VPL, especially when it's by players that are known to be so mechanically skilled.
Yeah, we've been talking about how he's not being played because, first of all, he's a very late game hero, but second of all, he's a very difficult hero. You don't have mobility, it's more about setting up in advance of a fight. The biggest argument against him being played is mechanical skill on players. Old School just went in to try and get a 1v5 pentakill. I think mechanical skill is a box that's already checked on this team. Let's see some Silvernail. I want to see him pull it out.
Yeah, hopefully we will get to see Silvernail come out in game number 2. But, what other picks are there that we just kind of want to see? Obviously, I'm always a fan of seeing Weapon Arden get pulled out. Never know when that might make an appearance, but there's a few other things. Obviously we've seen Saw now.
I want to see you guys getting involved at home as well. Hashtag VPL, hashtag Silvernail. Let's get it in this draft. We'll see if any other players are looking at Twitter right now. But Kensei going to be the first ban, very unsurprising. Now that Tribe are on the B side, I'm curious how they change up their draft strategy because, in game 1, very safe draft to start things off. Didn't give anything away, went with the Churnwalker to start. They hovered Ozo last game, now they're hovering Saw. But they did take the draft very seriously. Banning Churnwalker, that was their first pick, so clearly Tribe highly prioritizes Churnwalker.
Yeah, this is something that they were picking even way back at the World Championship in 3v3. They were one of the teams that was heavily emphasizing this Churnwalker pick. So obviously with Max Green, you know that he is exceptionally skilled with this hero and thinks very highly of it. So they want to make sure that if they don't have it, their opponents don't have it either.
Absolutely. Malign going to be banned away here by Rampage Gods. Not something we see banned too often, but against Chuck, I would ban Malign as well. She can dominate a lane so hard when you're against a mechanically strong opponent.
Malign, Samuel, or Celeste doesn't really matter. If Chuck gets his hands on one of those 3, he's going to do exceptionally well. I was looking at his win rate.
Malign has the strongest presence, though, in the
Chuck has, I think, over a 75% win rate on all 3 of those heroes in ranked tiers. It's absolutely insane.
All right, Rez are going to be locked in here for Rampage Gods. That's what I like to see, trying to make some plays, making sure that they've got something that they can be aggressive. They can be the ones to set things up and make things happen. Maybe this is the pick that gets a solo kill in the game. This is how you make a name for yourself. We were talking about it earlier.
It very well could be. We'll see. Again, it's not something that we're expecting, but the unexpected is how you make a name for yourself, by doing the unexpected, by doing things that people say that you're never going to be able to accomplish. That's how you get yourself recognized.
Absolutely. We've got an Arden first pick locked in here. For the likes of Tribe, wouldn't be surprised to see another captain here, something like a Lorelei. We've seen a lot of across today, Flicker as well. There's a ton of options. Lorelei is going to be the pick in the end, but honestly, regardless of what you pick there, you're really not giving anything away because both of them just very strong all-around heroes.
Yeah, you can play dive with them. You can play protect the carry.
You
can go for team fights. You can play Weapon Arden. You can play Crystal Lorelei. You can go hybrid Arden. We saw that earlier as well.
You can. It's not recommended, but you can.
There's a lot of different options available to you. They're going to take the Flicker and the Vox on the side of Rampage God. So saying, you know what? Old School, you just destroyed us with this Vox. We're going to go ahead and take it for ourselves this time around.
Yeah, there's that Samuel for Chuck that we've been talking about. You expect a dominant performance in the mid lane from him. I'm curious to see what carry is picked up here for Tribe to go up against the box, because Baron is open. Silvernail is open.
Stop the dashes, Silvernail.
I don't want to say it before it actually happens. But Baron is open, which classically Vox does well into Baron, but I feel like Old School would be confident enough to grab something like that anyway. Tony, the lock-in, very safe, very, very strong.
we'll have to wait and see where they want to
Final
go.
pick.
If they do take
I'm on
that
something now.
ranged carry for weapon power in the end, which I feel like they still kind of would want that. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously
Oh,
they
yeah.
have Arden and Tony who can both build weapon power, but I think you want that ranged weapon power carry
Yeah.
to round out a composition.
Doesn't necessarily have to be ranged. You could be like a black feather or something, but definitely a carry. Not
Yep.
just someone that builds weapon power, but a carry.
Yeah, not a bruiser, but a carry.
Yeah. We'll see where Rampage Gods want to go with this draft right now. They still have, you know, I'd quite like to see something like a mage or a silver. It looks like it might be Anchor in the end, yeah. So bolstering that CP damage. We saw this earlier, Anchor and Reza in the same composition. Didn't really work out earlier. Maybe this is the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing, again, a lot of opportunities for to
Hard
take
engage.
down the hard engage. Yeah. Now, obviously, when you have the Anka and Reza and Fox, Lyra, Flicker, you know,
the
Flicker is really the only one that's gonna be tanky, and they're gonna go ahead and grab the Baron, have a lot of that hard burst damage that can deal with someone diving into the back lines.
Yeah, this is honestly Rampage Gods. I like the composition. They've basically said, hey, we're going all in. Let's build an entire composition that's gonna go all in. At least they've stuck to their guns on that, and they have a very clear win condition. Also, they're playing against a Baron, which typically does weakly against this kind of composition. But they do
Until
also
it gets
have.
late.
There's a Lorelei in there, which will protect a carry. You know, there's definitely very positive things in this draft for the likes
Yeah.
of Tribe. I'm not trying to take that away. But at least there is something here for Rampage Gods to hold onto. It's about time we see how Tribe are going to do in this one. Can they finish things off? Are Rampage Gods going to pull out the miracle upset? It's time to find out if Tribe are going to be in your top 4 for North America as we head into game number 2 here. Let me pass it to Humanist and Flash.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to game 2 between Rampage Gods and Tribe Gaming. My name's Humanist. I'm joined once again by the oh no, I don't even know what that was not appropriate. Flash X is with me.
Humanist, let's get it. Game number 2, Tribe putting Rampage Gods to shame in game number 1. Rampage needs to collect themselves, come back. It's a new game, it's a new map, it's a new draft. They need to keep calm and collected, obviously, with a beatdown like that. That's very hard to do. We'll see what they can do here, though, in game number 2. Wheel back on this Lyra as a captain. Must be a pick he's very comfortable with. It's not a pick that I'm too much of a fan of in this captain meta. But Rampage Gods finding first
What?
blood.
Hello, Grizz with that Dragon Blood contract procced off. Jada Green there on that Reza. Nice follow up and a bit of a surprise as they hammer down first blood against Tribe.
Max Green, interestingly, starting with 2 crystal bits. Not something we traditionally see him do. Definitely don't traditionally see very much on this Lorelei. I much more expected and prefer the utility style items. We'll see kind of how those progress out of the course of this game. I mean, Hammy obviously played a phenomenal CP Lorelei back in the preseason, but this is VPL. This is no longer preseason. Grizz going in hot.
Whoa! Chuck turns around, just click, gets him.
Samuel, so much damage, so hard to deal with. Grizz thought he was tanky. It's not tanky enough, my friend. The question is, who is the mid laner and where are they for Rampage Gods? Because Wheel, I'm pretty sure he's the captain.
Dude, Grizz is in there. You gonna see Grizz farming the mid lane, bro?
Yeah, I don't think Grizz on the Flicker is going to be their mid laner either. Maybe Rampage Gods showing us something we've never seen before. Maybe it is a mid lane Flicker. If it is, that's probably not the move you want to be making, you know, take down Tribe. But, you know, we saw some off meta stuff by Ferox. They made it work against Hammers earlier. Maybe this is the trick card, the trap card that
You know,
Rampage Gods had up their sleeve.
If there was like an item where you could plant a brush on the map somewhere, then mid flicker could actually be pretty effective. I think, as you said, it's a bit awkward, and I think really they're just trying to find their balance on the map right now. Unfortunately, it's a misread as Grizz moves up the top looking for a pick, but nobody's home.
Nobody's home, indeed. They wanted some of that jungle. Not going to be there for them. Tribe, on the other hand, going into the jungle of Rampage God, stealing away some camps right there. Gabe doubling back to make sure they protect their own crystal tree. And that's going to be a great exchange in the favor of Tribe. despite losing that first blood, taking a little bit of a gold advantage here. Grizz on this flicker, though, coming in.
Moving in hot. And if he's not careful, it feels like there could be a collapse down, but they're going to really actually respect what's coming out of Rampage Gods. And it's all about just getting the jungle camps for them. You can tell that they're not trying to trade.
Trying to get out, make sure they're playing this game slowly, capitalize on some of these early engagements. Chuck, next time he shops, gonna be picking up his Spellfire would be my guess. He might look for that Dragon's Eye. We'll find out. Rampage grouping for this bot lane turret. Max Green, though, with a bit of crystal power, able to repel that wave.
Max Green, 3v1 repels them. It's really not a problem. Long hair, don't care, or whatever the Lorelei has. I'm not sure if that's actually hair or not, but either way, he doesn't really care, handles it. And in the meantime, like, Grizz is trying to hold down mid lane by himself. It's not working out incredibly well. And did Chuck just grab that? Chuck, he got it with the Malice and the Verdict in the Drifting Dark over the wall, steals that weapon treant away from Rampage Gods. That was pretty clean.
Verdict has been made. Chuck deciding that he wanted that weapon buff, getting it in his pocket. Double buff Samuel, not something you want to mess around with here in the early game because it will hit like a truck. Chuck has a lot of money in his pockets, looking to head up to this top shop. Old School and Joseph putting the hurt on Afterburns.
Oh, putting the hurt on Afterburns. That Baron hits like a Chuck. From now on, that's what I'm gonna go with. Jump jets for it. Afterburns, not quite in range. Old School, looking for that one, won't find it there. Back to mid, a little bit of aggression coming out here as Tribe looks like they've maybe found Grizz. No, it's not gonna be a kill there, but it's definitely enough damage to zone them out away from the Crystal Treant and the double camp as well. So Tribe just slowly but surely taking control over this map.
Tribe hitting some of these major item power spikes a little bit quick. Rampage God Spellfire on Samuel. It's going to shut down and negate not just a lot of the healing on Lyra, but some of the barriers coming out of heroes like Reza. If Vox almost always goes for a lifesteal style item, it's going to shut down that as well. So I think Spellfire overall getting that splash image out, very, very important. Chuck double buffed yet again. Wheel trying to stall up this wave. I don't know how long he's going to be able to stand in front of Chuck, though.
Dude, like, Wheel's holding mid down, but it's been Grizz there on the flicker mostly. Look at this guy. Like, he doesn't have any items complete. He's got 4 last hits. It's even if it's not the right thing to do to be there, at least make sure that, like, you're getting some farm out of it. This is just a bit of a disaster.
Certainly questionable decision making by the side of Rampage Gods. This is not the moves, in my opinion, that you want to be making if they wanted to rampage themselves back into this game. Fortunately, they do have this good rotation onto their weapon treant. They were there preemptively, making sure they secure a Tribe. Grouping for Ghostwing a little bit slower than their game 1 capture, but they are not scared to just go for it despite everyone being up on Rampage Gods. Tribe, they're phenomenal. There's 5. That's something that Rampage is going to have to be very, very careful of, or they might be engaged upon. Gabe Vizzle looking for the taunt over the wall.
Jada Green, you better get out of there. A little troublemaker should avoid that, but the Verdict as Chuck slams it home. My goodness, hitting like a 3-item Samuel right there.
3-item Samuel, only holding on to 1. The Ghost Swing buff coming out for Tribe. This is where Rampage are gonna be in some trouble. Tribe might be able to start to run away with things here.
Tribe should be able to take the bottom turret fairly soon. 3 members from Rampage Gods and mid, but they're really not getting anything done. Gabe Vizzle and Chuck should not put themselves in harm's way. I wouldn't expect it to be. Chuck really trying to get the most out of that Drifting Dark. Look how long to the absolute maximum last second, he's just hanging right on the edge of that Drifting Dark. I love it.
Afterburns not able to find the mark. The Shimmer Blades not connecting. Tribe looking to potentially steal away this treant.
And it's going to be the Gauntlet down. This is a big team fight here. Joseph moving on in. Gauntlet will go out as Gabe took that passage right on through. And now this is the time where Rampage Gods need to get back. They're just crumbling right here. Old School will take 1 shot. Double shot comes on through. He'll find another. And this is Tribe just dismantling, demolishing, whatever you want to say against Rampage Gods. There's almost no contest.
Baron, not traditionally the hero that has too much of an impact in the early game. Old School sitting at 3-0. He's got the Serpent's Mask online. He's got the Breaking Point online. He's very close to hitting level 9. That is not something that Rampage is going to have an answer for much longer. It's looking to be a repeat of game 1 as Tribe just starts to pull away.
All Reza can do is move in and like waste a quarter of a second of Tribe's time before he has to run away because he's not getting anything done. Tribe are in such a strong position as they start to move down, bearing down upon this T2 turret here in the mid lane. Just Kayla just walks forward and immediately jump jets just truck right through him. Wheel, all he does is this arcane passage trying to dissuade a bit of time here. It's not going to work. Tribe Gaming hang in, they take the turret down, Ion Cannon on the backside, but looks like Rampage Gods had moved just out of the drop down zone for that. But Tribe take turret, they're out, they don't lose anybody.
7k gold lead. Wheel up in this top lane, not really sure what he's doing. He may have given up, or he's trying a new strategy that we have yet to see in the VPL, where you decide to just stall the lane in between those tier 2 and tier 3 turrets, which
Proxy farming, man.
yeah, proxy farming indeed. But you know, as a utility support, I don't even know what it is at this point.
He clears these waves so fast. Like, this is a very effective maneuver down here. Chuck is getting chased. This is much more interesting Flash. Chuck will be able to get out of that as 4 heroes descended upon Chuck. But now, under Invis, Grizz moving in. Looks like they made quite a mistake there, as Anka will be deleted out of the game, and now Tribe chases forward. Old School, if he wants to fight, he can, but Ghost swings up, and this is probably the take. In the meantime, oh, Joseph found Wheel. Wheel is in the base right here. Bada boom. Joseph having some fun. He'll knock him back to his own demise. Tribe, literally just a game of cat and mouse across the map right now. Tribe Gaming putting it on a show.
Tribe looking so strong. Who is going to be able to take down this team? They really have looked so good. It has not even mattered that Chuck is now in instead of Dienzio. He's just as strong. Some might even argue that he's an improvement, but it's going to be very interesting to see if anyone is able to stop this team.
That's what you were saying between the games, right? You were like, this is definitely an improvement upon what it was before. I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to get you in trouble right now. Ignore me. Tribe is into the base of Rampage Gods. Let the rampage begin. Old School begins to stack up the breaking point. Jump jets over the wall to reposition. Not sure he even had to, but he's playing it safe. You know, team call was made, and this guy, he's not someone that's going to go against his captain's call. They just hammer down. Base turret is broken. Chuck into the drifting dark. Arcane passage in from Wheel. Wheel trying to be the distraction. It's not gonna work, baby. Jade Green is down. Looks like Grizz will be second to fall. Chiskala's down as well. And basically just read out the names of the players for Rampage Gods, and then they're dead.
Yeah, but that's pretty much how that's working. Tribe, they're on a tear. I don't think we've seen any other team in either region look this good. Obviously, Europe and North America playing two very, very different play styles. Tribe, though, hands down, best team in North America. Don't at me.
Dude, I'm about to at you right now. That was, it was great to see Tribe play. Rampage Gods put up a bit of a fight, but really at the end of the day, they weren't quite a match for them. And Tribe will be moving forward. Great to see him, and I hope everybody had a great time with our casts. And with that, we'll go ahead and send it back over to Munchables and Tasty Bacon.
There we have it. Tribe managed to take it. Thank you once again to Humanist and FlashX and Tasty Bacon for casting the games across the course of today. Phenomenal showing, as always, by Tribe. And I mean, that's the reason they were at the top of my power ranking. Showing it right here. Utter masterclass from them.
Yeah, very, very strong. I have them in my top 3 for the power rankings. I still think Vision is going to be a hard-fought match for them, assuming they both make it to the finals. It should be absolutely incredible. But that's looking a little too far ahead. They have to get there first. I think everyone expects them to be there, but we'll see. I mean, Tribe dismantling Rampage Gods.
Yeah, I mean, this game was less competitive than the first game, and the first game was not competitive. Like, fair props to Rampage Gods, they got the first kill of the game. But That was kind of the only highlight for Rampage Gods, and then they kind of started to mess around a little bit and
they
tried.
kind of
I mean,
realized
won
that
in about 12 minutes.
They kind of realized that the game was slipping away from them, and started to pull out some unconventional strategies.
Well,
we'll
Tribe
say.
were more than happy to punish them for that. Let's take a look at where that puts us at the end of today in our tournament. We have our North American top 4 now decided. We have Hammers losing out to Ferox to start things off in North America, and then we had Tribe managing to win out over Rampage Gods with a 2-0 victory.
If I'm
Phenomenal
not
stuff
mistaken,
coming out.
that's the first time that the 2 has been on the right side of our schedule graphic. I think that's the first time
I have no
that
idea.
a lower seeded team has taken down a higher seeded team.
I have no idea if that's true or not, but let's take a look at our bracket right here. Tribe versus Ferox, Nova versus Vision. Those are your semifinals. This is your North American top 4 teams. Ferox managing to find their way in there. The other 3, the top 3 seeds, expected to be here. Ferox, absolutely the Cinderella story. Let us know on Twitter who you are going to be supporting next week in the semifinals. Hashtag Tribe, hashtag Vision, hashtag Nova, or hashtag Ferox, and tag us in the tweet as well. We want to know how many people are supporting each of these teams.
I do have to say a quick thank you to Ferox for making my hit or miss looking much more accurate, thankfully.
Absolutely. And before we round out the show for today, before we look at what's going to be happening next week, let's have a quick word from Razor. Let's have a look at what the semifinals are going to look like. Look at this. Team Queso against Sly and Team Clash against Rising Lotus. Then in North America, we'll have Nova Esports up against Vision Gaming, and we'll have Tribe up against Team Ferox. This is star-studded semifinals across the board. Honestly, these matchups are so difficult to call.
Yeah, I mean, there's still very much favorites in most of these matchups, but they could still go either way. There are upset potentials across the board. I mean, you expect Queso Clash, you expect Vision Tribe, but it wouldn't be a complete shocker to see a team like Nova or Ferox, Rising Lotus, Sly to sneak in to those finals.
Yeah, all of them have shown strengths, especially Rising Lotus. They surprised everyone with their performance yesterday. I expect to be surprised by how well they'll do next week as well. We'll see if that's going to be enough, though, to go up against Clash. That's a tough opponent. Honestly, these matchups are going to be insane. Tribe and Vision look like the favorites, but Nova, despite the NACL results, still look fantastic here on the VPL. And I expect them to be going full try-hard for the semifinals. Money is on the line. One team in each region remaining won't make any money, but the rest, they're in for the lion's share right now. They're fighting for first. That's going to be it from us for this week. Make sure you're here next weekend for the semi-finals and the grand finals on Sunday. That's it from us, though. Until then, we'll say goodnight and have a good evening.